All right, everybody, it's 6:05. We'll call the meeting to order. Today is Thursday, August 18th. And I'd like to welcome everybody to the first in-person Lcap meeting since the pandemic. So thank you all for being here. Appreciate it. Very nice feeling inside here. It feels much different than at my computer desk. Let's see, I think I would like to start out, just since it's the first one, let's all maybe introduce ourselves and say something, since we have some new folks, and including we'll ask the Zoom folks after we go through the room. Laura, what do you think first? Do the room and then go to Zoom. So my name is Steve Rubens. I am been in the Lcap for this is my third year. I am the new chair, and my left, of course, is the wonderful Elizabeth Hawkins, assistant chair this year. Let her talk about herself. That was kind of a force of habit. But really excited for this year. It's going to be a great year. And I have a fourth grader and a first grader at Sierra Oaks Elementary. And everyone's having a great time being back at school. So that's all I got for myself.
Elizabeth Hawkins. I've got 3 daughters in the district. So let's see if I can get this right. I've got a kindergartner and a 6th grader at Del Deo and a 5th grader at Del Paso Manor. And this is my second year on the committee.
I'm Superintendent. I'm a senior at Rio Americano High School, and this is my second year on Lcap.
Okay, Kern, I'm superintendent, and I'm starting my 30th year in the district.
And I'm the superintendent's chief of staff, and I'm on year 17 in the district.
I'm Nicole Green, and I have 2 kids in the district, one at Sylvan and one at Carriage. And this is my second year, like I'm starting my second year.
My daughter is in Mariposa Elementary. She is in grade 3, and this is my 3rd year.
Deborah Avalos. I have a 2nd grader at Cowan, and this is my second year.
I'm John Tornatore, the director of Lcap, and in a few years I will have a daughter here.
I'm Laura Mulder, Lcap's analyst, and I don't have any kids here. They're way old.
So whoever that wants to start with the first person on Zoom, test the audio.
Hello, everybody. Saul Hernandez. I've been on the board now for, I believe, 11 years. No, let's see. Anyway, it doesn't matter. And I'm excited to be the liaison along with my colleague, Pam Costa, where we do it together. And looking forward to working with you all this year.
Hi, everyone. This is Chelsea Kelly. I have 2 children in the district, 1 5th grader and 1 1st grader at Sierra Oaks.
Hi, I'm Melissa Bassinelli. I'm the deputy superintendent. I have been in San Juan for 25 years, and I have 3 children who have all graduated from San Juan high schools.
Hi, I'm Stephanie Colbert. I'm a mother of 2. One just graduated from San Juan High, and I have another one in San Juan High as a junior. And actually, she's on the board too. So introduce yourself, Eleanor. I feel like we're doing a cheer.
I'm Nora, and I am in 11th grade now, and I am captain on the cheer team at San Juan High.
You guys got that?
Hi, everybody. We didn't survive that first round, so we are good.
Okay.
Kim to say something. She just came, so I wanted Kim to introduce herself, say hi and something.
I am Kim Brown. I know almost every morning. And I have 3 kids in the district, 2 in junior high over at Churchill Middle School, and then 1 at Cowan Fundamental. And the school year has been popping so far. It's great.
Thank you, everybody, and glad we got those kinks out. I mean, that was good to get that done now. All right, I'm going to turn it over to Laura for attendance and roll call, please.
So I think I'm going to go around the room, and then the people on Zoom, why don't you just give us a thumbs up that you're here? That way we don't have to worry about the sound issue. Deborah Avalos here. Kim Brown here. April Green here. Elizabeth Hopkins here. Serena Moran here. Neela. Steve
here.
Okay, and so for those on Zoom, let's go to Elnora. A thumbs up. And Stephanie.
Oh,
your, pictures needed.
are we thumbs up or saying yes here?
Okay, perfect, thank you. And Chelsea. Thank you. Okay, we have 11 in attendance right now, so we do have quorum.
All right, next we'll move on to the approval of meeting minutes and take a motion to approve the meeting minutes from our last meeting. What was that date?
It's
Right here.
June-
Yeah, June 16th. Thanks, sorry about that. June 16th. I'll take a motion. Anyone?
Motion to approve them.
Kim Brown, motion to approve, second.
I'll second.
Elizabeth seconds. Is there any discussion from anyone about the minutes before we move to a vote?
Okay, so once again, we'll go around the room, and I apologize, we actually have 10 people right now. Deborah Avalos.
If I wasn't here, I abstain.
Correct. Kim?
Here.
April? Elizabeth?
Yay to approve.
Thank you. Serena?
Abstain.
Nina? And Joanne. Steve?
Approved.
Okay, Elmoria and Stephanie, do you approve the meeting minutes from June?
Here.
Here.
Chelsea? Thank you. Okay, so the minutes are approved with 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7 yays and 3 abstentions. Okay.
All right, thank you for that. Next, we'll have the board liaison update and superintendent update. John, do you want to go introduce it? So it's Saul, do you want to start with the superintendent update? I mean,
Sure.
Board liaison update, excuse me.
Can you hear me okay? Can you hear me okay?
Yep. Sounds good.
Okay. First and foremost, you all may have heard that our great superintendent has submitted his retirement papers to us, in which he will serve this last year of his contract, in which he will be done in June, which gives us plenty of time to go to the next step and find our next superintendent, which we are in the process of doing that now. And as soon as we know more, we'll get word to everybody and what that looks like and how it will proceed. Second of all, school has started. We're excited about that. We're hearing good things, and things are moving forward. We just had an open house, brand new middle school, Barrett Middle School. If you guys didn't have a chance to see it, go on the website and check it out. It's a beautiful another new facility in our district, and that's it. We're excited, but that's what I got so far today.
I mean, it actually, we increased by about 30 students from yesterday to today. In some of the areas of the district, we'll actually even see some increase over the holiday in September. But we're feeling positive about our enrollment right now. That's a good piece. And we'll continue to update the board actually at the next board meeting. We'll see what those numbers were as of Tuesday. Secondly, we were able to, if you were following along at all with the teacher shortage as well, that's a real issue. We had a meeting with all the county soups and we were hearing how many each district was short. And it's interesting. We're all facing many of the same challenges in terms of those key areas like special education, maybe world languages, some of those harder to fill pieces. And Dan Thigpen with our Teachers Association negotiated a side letter of agreement that actually allowed us to use staff that we currently have who may not have classroom loads or others to fill in. So we were able to start the year with individuals. And I think, Dan, when you started that agreement, or when you had got that agreement signed, we had like 19 vacancies. And by the end of the day, I think we had filled all of those except one. So it was real positive in terms of working with our Teachers Association. We also had some agreements with them last year around emergency backup teachers, and Serena may have felt this at times where teachers were actually subbing in your classes. And that was a real benefit because of your short subs, which that's another issue that we're facing. That those teachers can go in and fill in and get compensated for that day. So that really helped us last year, and we've extended that for this year as well. I did actually go to a smooth start. We've done a smooth start for a couple people on Monday or Tuesday of this week. The days get mixed up. I think it was Tuesday, where we had about 30 subs that we were actually providing some training for as well. So bringing them on board, providing some training for them and paying them for that day. So we have way more subs than we need, but it's still a lot of those folks, you know, they may even be committed to other districts. So starting the year, we're off to a good start. And I think folks are just feeling really good about being back in person the way we're. I will share in terms of COVID, what we are seeing is that we're seeing more of an impact right now on staff than we are in students. And I heard that similarly with my call with all this county superintendents this week. Like Center Unified has been in school already 3 weeks, and their superintendent said same thing. A couple of others, the same thing. They're seeing it more with the staff than students. Why? Not sure, but we'll continue to track that.
Great. Thank you very much. Thank you, Saul. Thank you, Mr. Kern. All right, Laura, we have general visitor comments. Go to general visitor comments. If there's any visitors, I hope you have filled out a card. I do have one card from Tom Nelson. Where should you stand? Where he is? Is that the best? Thanks, Tom. Whenever you're ready, go ahead and start.
Okay, I just want to thank the committee for making the decision to have hybrid meetings. I believe that providing the options of how to participate in advisory committees is helping to meet our families and community and LCAP members where they're at. It recognizes that not all of our families have the resources of transportation and time to attend in person. It models what our district aspires to for being inclusive and recognizing the diversity of situations families face in our district. That's all. Thank you for my comment.
Thank you, Tom. Is there any visitors on Zoom that would like to say something? Have any visitors on Zoom? All right. So next would be I'll let John introduce for our LCAP PAC restructure.
Yeah, so before we have Trent take it from here, we'll just start with providing a little bit of framing of the discussions and the presentations that have occurred prior to tonight's meeting regarding our LCAP restructure. So on April 5th, Board of Education held a workshop where the board appointed committees were discussed. A few months later, on June 16th, at an LCAP PAC meeting, Trent was able to present a draft board presentation and facilitated a conversation on the function and formats of the LCAP PAC. And then a few weeks later, on June 28th, the Board of Education met. It was a Board of Education meeting, and Trent presented data on the function and formats of the LCAP PAC. On Monday, Laura shared the video links of these previous discussions and presentations with PAC members. And then that brings us to tonight. Tonight's presentation or discussion is really a continuation of those previous conversations. So over to you.
Thank you, John. So over the course of the summer, Board Member Hernandez and Board Member Costa were gracious enough to spend some time having some conversations based on those earlier board meetings, based on some of the conversations that you all have had at the PAC meetings as well, and really focused in on kind of these two areas of how do we better support our members, our member experience, because everybody was kind of calling out that we have some vacancies that we haven't been able to fill or just haven't gotten filled. We've had some turnover in pieces going on. We've had some absences going on. We have some expression of not necessarily being satisfied with the experience and kind of the outcomes of the experience sometimes. And then the other area that folks really had an interest in, and especially the board, was just making sure that the roles and expectations were aligned so that the board's need for having that input coming to them to inform that process and that decision-making process was really being met and met well. So we took the time, went through the bylaws to draft some changes that we hope to address and get to some of those needs. So I won't go through line by line. believe those were all sent out to you earlier this week. I think you all have a copy and probably had a chance to go through there. I'll just highlight a couple of pieces for you. One of the big things we tried to do was really clarify that role and purpose. So in defining that actual word consult and what it really means for consulting and how that really functions. We wanted to be very clear with that. So you'll see that in there. The other area that we added was that board role being delineated and kind of spelled out for how the board really is expected to interact and what the board's role is in this process. Another area that I wanted to highlight for you was really kind of in helping set expectations on commitment and time so that as people look at whether they want to put their name forward to be a part of the committee, they have a good expectation. We tried to do it in a way that wouldn't limit necessarily the ability for the group to be able to engage in different ways as well. But we wanted to put some frames there so that people could have those expectations of time and commitment. And then that final piece, which was really a really strong piece that we heard from this group especially, was we want some relationships. We want to have relationships, especially with the board members, so we can have some direct conversations. So this does move you to be a board appointed committee. So in being a board appointed committee, that means those board members would actually get to appoint 2 members each to the committee. So that gets you up to, once we have our full 7 members, that gets you up to the 14. The superintendent would appoint 2 members. And then the other 4 members would be our student members. So you maintain that 20 size, but you are an appointee of a board member, so you get that relationship with that board member. Typically, when we have board appointed committees and they make that appointment, they stay in contact with those folks. They have some smaller one-on-one conversations with folks about, hey, how's it going? What are you hearing? Here's an interest, maybe we can explore. So it really does build that relationship. And that's one of the things we really heard from you. So we made sure that that was one of the changes that got in there as well. So with that, I'm going to pause. Really our interest tonight was to hear from you, any other feedback you had in relation to the draft or other comments or thoughts you had.
Yeah, before we move to committee discussion, if there are any visitors that would like to comment on this agenda item, now is your opportunity to speak. Okay, thanks, Tom. All right, we'll move forward with committee discussion.
Okay. I guess I'll start out. I had one, I was reading under part 3 under the authority portion. And I just wanted to make it clearer so it's not up to interpretation as much in future years. I know the intent is to say it's Green Act. But when it goes on from Green Act with the Ed Code, it says the requirements of these bylaws, and the requirements of these bylaws, excuse me. And then it's in this regard, a majority, that word majority is where I have the issue of the committee members may meet. It should say any number of committee members, as we do not need a majority under the Green Act to hold a meeting. We cannot take any action unless it's in the public meeting, but the word majority, we do not need 51% or more to meet. So that I'd like that word stricken and replaced with something along the lines of any number of committee members. And then let's see. I was also wondering, I see on section 10, it has 1 board member and as the board liaison, and that's our current bylaws. So I'm glad to see that. So I just want to confirm that there's going to be 1 board liaison, not 2 moving forward.
That is the intent to still have the alternate as well. So they have backup, but we'll have 1 official liaison.
And even as we move to 7, Steve, our intent will be that each committee still have 1 and an alternate. So that's a good question.
Perfect. There's some. Anyway, that's great. And then last question, and then I'll let someone else ask some questions if they want to. When is the potential of the approval of this? Once is it going to be January, like the last time that was approved, or is there an idea when this would be approved?
It's actually going to the board next week.
Next week, okay.
But just for discussion.
Discussion next week. Depending on how that discussion goes, would either come back the following meeting after that, or if they want us to go back and do some deeper digging, we would have to take longer.
Okay, yeah, I was just curious if it was gonna be January after the elections and with the 7, or if we're just gonna, we're gonna do it sooner.
No, and that does bring up an important piece I want to highlight for folks. The intent is not that board members are going to come in and say, well, we got to appoint people, so everybody, unless we pick you, you're off.
That'd be bad.
Folks who are on the committee, stay on the committee, and we will work through that appointment process as we have vacancies.
Okay,
So
so
just to clarify that.
thank you, that's good. I've actually talked about that. Thanks for bringing that up. So say I would be appointed to a board member as a sitting person, Elizabeth would be appointed, and so on, standing members, and then moving forward, new members would be appointed. Is that how it goes? That sounds reasonable.
And they probably, you know, even how they had an interest to have each area represented. So that if you had a board member in your area, it would make sense you'd be associated. But we may have, we could have an overabundance of individuals in a certain area. So, but we'll work through that.
Yeah, I would like it to represent the population, most definitely.
Because weren't you guys talking about having 2 designees, but one would be within their area and one could be a choice of wherever?
Yep.
Is that why? Because of this transition?
No, I think that, well, and you.
That was an interest that Mr. Hernandez and Ms. Costa had, was they wanted to reflect that in that board transition to trustee areas, that they do represent those areas. They want to make sure that there was a diversity of folks on the committee representing those areas as well. But they also didn't want to be locked into, if there was somebody really good and there was an opening who happened to not be in their area, they didn't want to necessarily be locked out of being able to name that person to the committee as well. So they thought that gave the best balance of making sure we have representation from each of the 7 trustee areas, but still giving them flexibility that if a good person comes up, they can still pull that person onto the committee as well.
And there was something else having to do with if there were new trustees that came in, that they could replace the people who were appointed. Is that something that's up for discussion?
So when it's a board appointment, the authority to appoint resides with the board member. So when that board member changes, that authority changes with that board member. What we've typically seen is board members don't necessarily come in and pull people off. It's happened. Won't say it hasn't happened, but it typically doesn't. People generally let people finish out their terms and then appoint when there's a vacancy. But it is the authority of that board member. So that would be up to the individual board member on whether they want to do that or not.
Is that written into the district bylaws, or is that written into the bylaws for each of the committees?
That is in the other, that is something like with our curriculum standards and our facilities and those board appointed committees.
So it's based on each committee.
Well, yeah, and I think the discussion historically has been, you could, well, I'll pick an easy one that's a hard one, okay? People have very, very strong views on issues related to the pandemic, okay? There could be an individual who may, like, let's say Serena and I'm on the board, schools should never be closed, it should be open all the time, and I appoint somebody. Serena all of a sudden runs against me and wins. Is she going to want to have people representing her that don't necessarily represent her views? So that has been the thought process historically, is that as a board member, you probably want people on your committees that somewhat represent your views. As like Trent said, so that's similar on the other committees. It's something that could be brought up to the board. I know they feel that works on the other committees, but again, that's a piece that the committee would want to share. That's a thought that could be shared.
Maybe ask Saul if he wants to chime in on what you're talking about.
Sure.
Yeah, can you guys hear me?
Yep.
First, let me make sure you guys can see. First and foremost, we definitely, sorry about that. Can you guys see me all right? First and foremost, we wanted to make sure that the district was represented from all 7 areas, first and foremost. But at the same time, we wanted to be able to have the ability to put people that that want to be in the committee. I for one want, for example, would definitely want somebody from area. I think I'm area 4. I'm not sure. I think it's area 4. But at the same time, if I have a very strong person that I want in the committee, like let's say I want Kim Brown and she's not in area 4, I want to have the ability to seek Kim out and say, hey, would you like to be on this committee? Okay. So we're going to have 7 for sure represented, and then 7 where the board members themselves have the ability to go outside of their area and if they want to appoint somebody. So that's the thought process there. As far as somebody already on the committee, it's always been historical that if the board member comes in, a new board member, he or she should have the ability, because we're going to an appointment, to be able to appoint who he or she would like to do. If that person's already on the committee and they would like them, then that's fine. But normally in the past, they do they usually let that person finish their term and then go out and, but doesn't have to be. If they want a new person, they have that ability to do so.
Recruitment issues, and I know that a lot of our members had admitted to, having some accountability to not recruiting with the efforts that they should be recruiting at. Then could it be that we focus on those 7 areas so that there is equal representation within our areas by pushing recruitment first, like making that a priority and trying that first? Because it sounds like the reason why, board members would want to go outside of their area is because it may be easier for them to find people that they, from other areas, that they don't have to be specific to that area. But if you really push recruitment, I'm saying our district is so large, we have so many people within this district. I don't understand, and within our community, how we can't find the people that we need. I think that the failure is greatly in the recruitment efforts.
Can I speak? Is that okay if I jump in here? I think that makes sense, Ms. Brown, that, that we should probably try to focus on our area first. Because that way the district is represented first and foremost. And I mean, I can't speak for my colleagues, but I think that makes sense. Is that what you're saying, Ms. Brown?
That are here, that we may have 3 people from one area. And if like, let's say that's Trent's area, well, he could pick up the 2, but the other person wants to continue on. That would allow another board member to pick that person up and have them continue. So that's something that maybe we could even look at changing as we move through the process, as folks term out.
Yeah.
If they're not in your area, then maybe your first goal is to find somebody in your area. But if you can't, then you look at another area. Because I know in conversations with individual board members, they were pretty clear about not wanting to see folks that wanted to continue not have that happen.
I think we should probably check with Zoom. Does anyone have any add like that? Anyone else in the room? No, no hands. Okay, just wanted to check. I think I might need a screen so I can see what's going on there. Okay, no, yeah, it's okay.
I know one of the biggest questions that I did have on here was about the meetings. It says we're going to 4 annually. Is that correct? Is that 4 meetings annually?
It says.
That's a great idea. But what is the time? Would they be like Saturday day meetings, like all day meetings? What does that look like?
I don't think we wanted to be that prescriptive in here. I think we wanted to leave that a little depending on specific need. There were a lot of ideas actually kind of talked about what meetings could look like, and even collaboration with other committees and hearing community voice and pieces. So I think there's still hopefully enough openness in here to design around some specific needs that the group may have. But then again, still giving that overall framework for what the commitment generally looks like.
Great question, Kim. Yep.
There's one other one, and I know no one wants to hear it, but it has been an issue for me ever since I read our bylaws. And it is the part that says, the committee shall serve at the pleasure of the Board of Education. And I just feel like that should read, should serve in collaboration or in support of the board. I don't like the word serve at the pleasure, or just the word serve, to be honest.
I
It
concur.
just, I mean, for me as a Black woman, it just feels very slavery-like.
Yeah, Kim and I have talked about that pretty much a lot last year, and it does seem to be a kind of degrading type of term. Maybe not always was, but maybe it always was, maybe it is, but that'd be nice to say in collaboration is probably more productive and constructive. Thanks, Kim, for remembering that.
I have a question.
Please,
because
April.
I was reading in the composition and selection of the members, and it says that there'll be an emphasis or consideration of parents or legal guardians of pupils enrolled in the district for a low-income foster youth and English language learners. I thought, and I could be misremembering, but I thought it was also to include like special education students as well. And I see that that's not in here, but I thought it was before in homeless students. I just think it's important to have a representation of all those areas. But then it's also a little concerning that it's an emphasis on those areas, but it's not really a requirement by the way this is written. It sounds like we'd like them to look at these groups, but it's not really required for them to look at these groups. So how are board members going to show that they put forth an effort in finding members in these areas? That's a concern for me.
Well said.
John, you want to speak to that special ed piece?
Yes, so the way the Lcap is designed, and if you look at the background here, I was looking at how it was phrased here, was that the Lcap needs to demonstrate how services are provided to meet the needs of unduplicated English learner, low income and foster youth students, and including performance of all pupils in state priority areas. So a lot of the LCFF funding is principally directed towards our English learner, low income and foster youth students. So by law, we want to make sure that we have voices that represent those three groups on the committee, given that the funds are intended to directly support those three student groups. It's not limited to those three student groups by any means. So it could include a variety of different student groups and populations, but at minimum, having that emphasis on the low income foster youth and English learner students.
So then I guess the other part to that was, how are board members showing that they are looking actively for representation in those groups or those concerning areas? Like, because the way it's written, it sounds like board members can say, well, I tried, but I didn't find any, so I'm going to appoint my best friend who I know is going to support everything I say and want. And I don't think that we want to get us in a situation where board members can do that. It's supposed to be a collaboration from board members and parents in the community. And if you just put all the board members' best friends on the committee, it's not really collaboration.
John, isn't there a piece of that in the application process?
There is in the application process for folks to indicate if they self-select to, if they fall in with one of those three targeted groups.
I could barely hear you, I'm sorry.
There is, folks can self-select
On the application
to indicate to the board or to us that they fall in one of those three groups, but it's not a requirement. Like, we can't say, tell us, are you a parent or caregiver of?
Right, so is there going to be a process for board members where people in our communities can put their name in a hat, so to speak, to say, I'd like to be considered for appointment to the committee? Like, what is that process going to look like for our board members? Is there going to be any kind of accountability, like transparency of showing what that looked like for them, those types of things?
Trey, you want to talk about the application process?
So with our other board appointed committees, we will typically run recruitment processes. Though I have some ideas on how to do it a little bit better, or a lot better. So we would run a broad call for interested parties taking that applications. Those would then be available to the board members. So when they have that opening, they go through those applications and they say, okay, here are the people who are interested to me. I want to talk to them, and they go through that process. There's not necessarily a formal interview process or formal set of questions other than whatever was doing the application that they have to ask or go through. But I think we could look at making sure that in the application we put out through the recruitment process, we are really servicing the desire for a representative group. Really asking the questions that would help surface members of representative groups. And certainly I know that the board understands the purpose and of the PAC. So I would hope that the accountability from the PAC itself, as well as the community, would help them in their decision-making process.
But they could just appoint, if they already had someone in mind, they could just appoint, or if they did not, they could look at the list of applicants. If they had someone in mind, they could just appoint, right?
Theoretically, we would probably ask them to have that person go through the application process and fill out that application.
That seems fair.
But I mean, that's jumping through hoops. So it's.
Well, I can share, like with some of the other committees, you may have other people who have applied who haven't been chosen. And then at some point, if a member steps down, the board, what the board does is they'll ask their Stephanie Cunningham, do we have applications for this position? You know, and then she'll provide that information, and, you know, they may decide, yeah, okay, that person, I feel like they represent the committee, or they might say, you know, I'm not sure it does, but that's usually how they go about it. It hasn't been our experience that they've appointed, like, I'm going to appoint these people coming in. And that even goes to that point about, we really haven't seen people change who they've appointed when they've taken a seat, and they may have had very different views. But I think to Trent's point, you know, part of that's that recruitment.
I have a question about that. With the board appointees, do you see that these appointees are moving through the committees or no?
It depends. We've had people on the facilities committee.
Yeah, so.
Dave Dorr, for example, who was on the facilities, he just passed away. I mean, he was on that committee for probably 20 plus years. We've had, I would say fewer go from committee to committee, more maybe that here's a real interest and a passion, and they stick with the committee. We've had some.
I would say that's the exception rather than the rule.
Okay, I just was wondering with picking specifically these same people that are going through it. Okay. And then I know that I heard one of the board members bring up that she suggested doing like videos, doing like a series of videos. I think that's a great idea because even for some of us coming in, we had no idea what Lcap really truly was. And just to have like a series, and we have BTV, I mean, it could be a collaboration with the students who are organizing that and putting it together.
Yeah, so that the idea is not only for Lcap and PAC, our committees, but even for the board. What is the board? What's the board's role? How does the board function? Superintendent's cabinet. What is it? Who are those people? What do they do? What role do they play? So really looking at those different groups and processes in the district and having that series. So we're working on that as one of our big projects for the year, actually.
You know, one of the hard realities, even when I talk with other superintendents, is people are much more willing to get involved at their local level at the school. And I mean, think about, you know, maybe, you know, somebody, they've been PTA president, they've been involved in a booster club, because they see more of a direct impact. It's not uncommon that districts have a very difficult time getting folks involved at this level, because I think it's harder to understand the system and the impact, and it is a large system. I mean, I have parents tell me that all the time, where a site principal will say, I have a great person, you know, but they really want to stay involved directly at the school site. And I, you know, if you guys have ideas, like my superintendent's parents advisory council, you know, we get representatives, they don't always all show up, but we have, you know, probably far more people show up to that. It's not as much of a commitment either. I know me personally, I never knew any of the board members in the school district that my kids went to, but yet I was vice president of the Booster Club. My wife was president of the PTA. That's how we were involved in our kids' education. I applaud the folks that want to do this at the district level. I think just the majority, that's where they feel their comfort zone.
Well, I could just speak for myself. I was invited, and just the invitation gave me, you know, the idea that, okay, let me see what is it. And I think that probably one of the biggest problems is that people are not being invited. They have no idea this even exists. And I would say that for majority of the committees that are at the district level, most parents have never heard of them. And their children, these are parents who their children graduate, and they have generations more graduate, and their grandchildren go, and they still have never, ever heard of these committees.
I'm gonna do a quick check with Zoom. I think we have a person on Zoom. Chelsea, go ahead. Whenever. Okay, 1 second while we get the audio straightened out.
Okay, you guys went silent, so I think it's time for me to speak. Can you guys wave? Yep, okay. My recollection is that when I was also encouraged to apply, Kim, just like you, my recollection was that at the time that it was dealt with, that the two board members, board liaisons, were the ones who chose from the applicants, and that it was a blind choice. I recall being told that it was blind. And so perhaps that, I understand that's harder when people are being appointed by individual members, but maybe that would get at some of the concerns about the picking your friend scenario. But that certainly gave me peace of mind. And I remember being told very clearly that I was chosen because of my personal history and being raised by a single parent mom and in a low income community. So maybe that would make people feel more comfortable, or maybe it's a suggestion that it be blind. I don't know.
Okay, I'm not sure if you guys can even hear me, but anyway, just to make a comment about the board member selection, in my 10 years of appointing somebody, I have never I've never appointed a friend. I've always went through the process. And I think in this Lcap scenario, that's exactly why we're going to this, because we're trying to go to make sure that we have an abundance of candidates that want to serve. And I'll be the first to tell you that I'll say Saul failed in the sense that I didn't go out there and recruit as much as I needed to recruit on Lcap. And the reason probably why I didn't, because it was not an board appointed committee. And on the Lcap, the way that we select people is that if you want to be a volunteer in the district, you submit your applications. It's just like Ken said, we get the applications that want to serve on this committee. And I would hope that my colleagues and I would want to appoint someone that we're looking to meet their representation from the district, and more importantly, from those target groups that we need to focus on. And I got to believe in my heart of hearts that is what the plan is, and that's where we need to go. But, to think that we're just going to appoint friends because we want to, get a rubber stamp, I don't think that's the case at all.
The idea that parents don't really know about these committees, or that the impact maybe is more, they're seeing it at the level of their school. I could totally see that, because the only reason I knew about this through an email, so I read about it. But if I hadn't known what's an Lcap, because I was
in education, I was an administrator, I work at CDE, I know the importance of the LCAP. But if I didn't have that background as a parent, I would have been overlooked that email completely, probably like, what's an LCAP, right?
Okay.
So with that, I was just kind of going through my head, like, if it's more of like a boots on the ground kind of effort, like us who already come here, we could go to like back to school nights and talk about this is the LCAP PAC, this is why it's important. I'm a parent and, you know, this is what we do and maybe you guys should apply. Here's how you apply. We could be highlighted in school newsletters or go to events and talk or pass out flyers. More kind of like recruitment efforts from us. So it's not just like maybe a board member or someone, a principal talking about it even, but like an actual parent.
Even going to different school sites, right? Not just your own.
Yeah,
You can
sure.
not duplicate and have better representation. And yeah, going to different events, that's a great idea.
I think one of the ideas that we actually had was kind of like a parent community volunteer job fair where, you know, we would have an evening where opportunities for parents to get involved, even because, you know, whether it's about PTA, whether it's about site council at the local level, whether it's about the district committees, CAC, DLAC, all of those, providing the information so that the people could really see, okay, you know, that's where I think and where I fit best. We've talked about doing something like that as well. So it kind of fits to what you're saying as well. But I think that as well as going to where folks are.
Because more parents obviously will go their kids back to school night than they would go to like a district fair or something. I'm sure you get a good turnout, but many more people would be at like their child's.
All right, I think we'll ask for any last final questions for Trent and move on. Going once, going twice. Moving on. All right, committee business.
Thanks, Trent.
Thank you, Trent. Yeah, sorry about that. Thank you very much, man. Good job, really thorough. So first, it's my pleasure to recognize Kim Brown for her service last year as chairperson of this committee. We are now friends because of it. I'm proud to say. And it was a great experience working under you. Prepared me to be the chair this year. And I got a little something here for you for your wall in your house. So give Kim a round of applause, everybody. And it's an appreciation of your outstanding contributions as chairperson of the San Juan Unified Local Control and Accountability Plan Parent Advisory Committee dated August 18th. That was a mouthful. Great job. Good job.
Thanks, everyone.
All right. More exciting stuff. We have the student chair election, I should say, and that's an action item. So we'll be voting tonight on that. How are we doing this, Laura?
We do nominations. We've got, currently we have two students, Elnoria.
Okay, we have
and
two.
Serena.
Yeah. Do we have any nominations? You can nominate yourself or anyone wants to nominate one of the students as chairperson, please raise your hand, or if you're on Zoom, and feel free to speak out if you're the only student in the room.
I nominate myself.
Okay, anyone on Zoom nominating? Okay, does that mean do we still have to vote? Or is it unanimous?
We still.
Let's make it a vote. Let's make it a vote.
We need a first and a second motion.
Do I have a first to nominate Serena as chairperson? April 1st, second by Kim. Any discussion? Don't think so?
You know what, can I share something about how
Go ahead,
amazing? We had at our kickoff at the start of the year, we had an equity summit and we had a group of students from Rio that are part of the equity team. And Serena and one other member of my SSAC, and who was the third? chief and it was the
Oh, Kelly.
Kelly. And it was just the impact that these kids had on the adults and the administration. It was pretty cool, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was really cool.
And they were able to talk about the work they're doing at their site around equity. Some of the initiatives that Serena has really been leading as well. And it is clear how amazing, you know, I say this to my group, but I mean, we like to tell the kids what we think they should say, but in reality, kids are advocating for themselves like they never have before, and that's not going to change. So she's just such a respected leader throughout the district with site administrators, with students. So you guys are lucky to have her on this committee.
Yeah, I've been very impressed. Very impressed. All right, so we have a second, so no discussion other than the kind words from Ken. So we'll take it to a vote. Whenever you're ready, Laura, do you want to go through that?
You bet. I'll start around the room and then head back up to Chelsea. It's Stephanie on Honoria on Zoom. So Deborah, do you approve?
Yes.
Thank you. Kim? April? Elizabeth?
Approve.
Serena? Feels kind of weird, huh? Okay, Needham had to leave, but we still have 9 people, so we have
Great,
4.
excellent.
Steve?
Yes.
Okay, Chelsea?
I approve.
Yes, you do.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, yeah.
So we're good. So it's approved with 9. It's unanimous. Congratulations, Serena.
Okay. Yes.
A quick question.
Please, Kim, go ahead.
How many members do we currently have?
We have 13, but we have not had a response from one of the members. We've reached out a couple times.
Was that within that 13?
We have 13 counting her.
Do you know like how many we have from each district or anything like that?
I'm
How
sorry.
many we have from each like
Area?
area?
Yeah, I can look at the demographics. That's a good question.
Good question.
Mhm.
All right, moving on. We're happy to announce that there is childcare available for these meetings. There are some things you should know before we say absolutely, but they are common sense, so. First is too many betters, we must notify Laura 10 days, as much time as we possibly can to give Laura enough time to schedule people to be here for your children. If it's not received within 10 days, it can't be guaranteed, but if it is received in 10 days, it can be guaranteed. So with 10-day notice, guaranteed. If it's short notice, can't guarantee, just want to be clear. And we're really lucky to have this. I'm really appreciative of it.
Thank
you. And secondly, childcare at meetings is based on availability of childcare helpers. Things can happen if they get sick or something happens. We have the hybrid model if that happens. You could log on Zoom if for some reason childcare didn't happen that day. But we don't anticipate that happening, but just to make it clear, it could happen, like things can happen. We will attempt to provide 2 childcare workers at each meeting. That is for the benefit of everybody involved. Parents must sign in and sign their children out and must be picked up immediately after the meeting's adjourned. That's another common sense thing. Just wanted to make sure it's clear. You can't go out and have dinner and come back at 10, Anyway, and it's also recommended that you bring child's homework or a personal device like tablet. The district can offer coloring books, colored paper, crayons, stickers, and games like Clue, Trouble, or Uno. But if there's anything specific that your child needs to or wants to be occupied during the 2 hours, up to 2 hours, it's recommended you bring something for them. The district will provide a snack like goldfish, Cheez-Its, and crackers, things like that. They're about to bring other snacks for themselves. Yeah, feel free to bring your own snacks if you want something more hearty, like a meal, like an actual food. That'd be great. And then you can advise the childcare worker that's working that evening. If you have a snack, and let them know what that's all about. And then if you have specific questions pertaining to the student's circumstance or any circumstance whatsoever, please reach out to Laura and she will do her best to accommodate your needs, most definitely.
If I could do another
Please.
quick update, Elizabeth, you can probably speak to this too. I encourage people to bring their own devices, but realize that they can't. Maybe Trent can answer this. We don't have the ability to let them hook into our internet. They don't have internet capability.
Can we get a guest Wi-Fi? Set up?
Pushing computer. Yeah.
Oh, Peter, oh,
Nice, thanks.
Yes, stuff.
Guest Wi-Fi would be awesome. So we're gonna work on guest Wi-Fi for next time.
They'll be done.
Thank you, thank you. And that is that. Moving on to committee meeting recordings. There has been some folks that have expressed interest in not recording the meetings. There's been some interest in expressing in recording the meetings. We can act on this tonight, or we cannot act on this tonight and push it to next week or next month. But I would like to open that up for discussion, I think is appropriate. Just to see where people are at. Kim?
What were some of the reasons why they didn't want to be recorded?
Forever on YouTube, forever on the internet.
Are there any reasons why people wanted to have the recordings? What were the reasons?
Definitely, for accountability reasons, for historical value, there's a lot of good reasons for both. Privacy is the main reason for no, historical reasons, and accountability for yes. So
I think it's worth mentioning that if it's not recorded, we'll still have the meetings being.
they still will be recorded though. They
Right,
just won't
it's
be
not,
published.
yeah, that's the
That's-
distinction that we talked
They
about.
won't be published on YouTube forever for
They'll be,
things like
yeah, they'll be
that.
recorded for note-taking purposes.
Real
Sorry.
quick, it came again, and then Serena had her hand up too.
So with recording, if there was a way for that individual not to be seen or individuals not to be seen, would they still be okay with the recordings moving forward in the public? Or is it just all the content, period?
It's undecided. I mean, there's no decision, or it's just some people express concern about it, both sides.
and I think when you're on Zoom, Peter, correct me if I'm wrong. When you're on Zoom and if you're speaking, then your face is highlighted and that's what gets put on the recording.
But you can
Is that
turn your
correct or
face off.
no,
You can
being
turn the
that we're
camera
in
off.
this situation?
Just turn your.
Yeah, you turn the mic
where you have
off.
Your silhouette or your avatar there,
What about with closed captions? Does their name pop up? Because we.
whatever name display that basically they have associated with it.
Serena was next, and then April.
So I was just gonna ask a clarifying question, if we could record for note taking and maybe like, if we need to go back
Yeah,
to purposes.
I forgot to mention that. Yes, it is gonna be recorded for note taking, and there will be a record of it. It just wouldn't be published on the internet. That's the idea. But again, it's up to the committee, so we don't have to vote on it. We can vote on it tonight, but April.
Those concerns brought up by committee members or non-committee members?
It was more of a discussion and of letting the board or the committee decide if we still want to record or and there's also more of a ability to speak freely without having something put on the internet, like or broadcasted, and be more honest with each other or something like that, where there's more.
I think also just because being back in person kind of naturally led to this discussion,
Yeah.
just like, if we were talking, are we, is it Zoom? Is it hybrid? Is it in person? Does it need to be recorded? If so, do people feel more comfortable speaking freely at a meeting, one-on-one, just being a little more, I don't know, casual? If you're not worried it's going to be recorded and people look up your meeting.
We just wanted to bring it up to see how the committee felt and we can vote on it. And decide. Oh, yeah, we have a Zoom call.
Chelsea, what's your?
I find value in having the meetings recorded, particularly because if one of the members misses a meeting, we can watch a meeting that we missed and get caught up. So I just thought I would mention that.
I piggyback what Chelsea said because, this is the problem I have. I want me to be recorded because like I'm going through a CPS case and everything else, and me reaching out and advocating to like foster care students, and it opens the door on with other parents, and it has helped where they don't want people to know what's going on, but when they see I'm in the same predicament, it opens the door for them to get help for them and their student, for their family, or their child, and they don't feel like they have to hide or anything else. If you want to hide and you don't want to be posted because of a security or a safety reason, then I think we should have an option where you can be anonymous and the anonymous person can still be able to give their opinion to the board and share and everything else. But otherwise, I want me to be posted on YouTube and everything else so it can go worldwide. That's my alibi and everything else that I'm sharing, that it can get around to other families and other people where I'm reaching out for resources, because maybe you guys don't have all the answers, and maybe somebody else that across the world will have another answer that's looking in on us and watching and everything else. So out of my perspective, this is going far for me legally and for my daughter as reaching out for help, and so and as a safety and everything else. So I don't know. But if the person really wants to be like secretly like secluded, maybe we should have an option for it and not be anonymous. But I'm sorry, but I want my name to be posted and everything else, my daughter and everything else, because it has helped multiple families and other students, and that goes for like a life safety thing. So I just want to let y'all know that. So just think of it being the option, a button or whatever. But I want to be posted. I do.
Are meeting minutes public?
Yes, they're posted on our
It's online.
website. What, Elizabeth, go ahead.
Yeah, prior to going into the Zoom method, were the meetings recorded and put online, or is that something that only came about with Zoom?
Sorry, I didn't catch that.
Sorry. Juggling a few things.
Oh my gosh.
I would say prior to the pandemic and moving towards a Zoom method, were the meetings in this room recorded and put online? Like
The minutes were just posted.
just the minutes were posted. So we'd be going back to that. So I mean, just for the discussion's sake, that would be my preference if we're in person. I guess with Zoom, it makes it more difficult, but I feel like when there's a camera on, I'm also doing this a lot. And if it's going to be written out with notes and there's a record of the meeting, that's, to me, I'm comfortable with that. But
Anyone else? I think, should we get a show of hands without official vote? If we want to take action on this tonight? Or any objections to voting on this tonight? I think it's gonna be yes, but.
One thing about what you just said, Elizabeth, is the minutes, they're just kind of sound bites. They don't give the entire discussion. So if that helps any of you decide.
Yes, I think we're ready to vote on it. Do I have a motion to continue?
Our motion to continue recording all of our meetings.
Is there a second to continue recording all our meetings, April? Any discussion, any more discussion against or for recording our meetings?
I just want to share that I think it's important for transparency and just like historical record, like in 40, 50 years from now, this video will exist and other people can see it. and be like, wow, that was really important to them at that time, like, and be able to reflect and see, like, I just think that that's really important thing. Like nowadays, we look back at things that happened historically 50 years ago and we're just like, wow, they really thought that. Like, you know what I mean? So I just feel like for those purposes, for future generations to be able to learn and see how we did things is an important historical moment, especially with what we're going through right now.
Agreed.
I also like to just say, I think it's really important for accountability, because I know that I've been able to go back and research and watch certain videos from whether it's a board meeting, whether it's our meeting, whether it's other meetings, and be able to look at who was present, what they said, why they said what they said, if they're still saying the same exact thing that they were saying in that meeting. So it just makes people more accountable as well. Yeah, and you can hold them accountable to what they said.
I agree with all that. I think that's true. I think also the other side of the coin is just if we're talking about trying to recruit people and bring in voices that might not normally be as comfortable in this type of setting, that might be a con against it too. The idea that it's going to be recorded. I think that cuts both ways. Some people might like that idea and other people might not want that for whatever is going on in their personal life to be, you know, if someone is able to access a video of them into eternity.
But I think that coming in, especially to Lcap, when I first came in, when the expectations are very clear and your roles are expressed that this is the role that you'll be playing and these are the things that you're expected to do and this is what you'll be doing throughout the duration of Lcap, and it's, you know, written in black and white and it's shared with you in your initial meeting, then you know that that's what you signed up for and you're okay with it. I know that I was. And sometimes when you drop the ball and those things that were expectations, people are no longer expecting, or then they don't become expectations to you and you just do the least. So I just think that hopefully moving forward with our Lcap PAC, the expectations are very clear.
Jumping off of what she said, though, the groups that we are trying to find representation for within this committee are usually the groups that have the least power and feel like they don't ever get heard. So this giving them an opportunity to be heard and actually have a voice, I think is very empowering for them and would be a big draw for those groups. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think it'll help the board recruit too.
Absolutely.
So, all right, I think we have a consensus and I think we're ready to vote. So let's go ahead and take a vote.
Deborah. Kim?
Approved.
April? Elizabeth?
Nay.
I'm just a nay, and so
Just a
I feel like there should be another word. Yay, nay,
No.
not approved. Okay, I'm a nay on that one.
Okay. Serena?
Nay.
Steve?
I think I am a yay at this point.
Okay. Chelsea?
Yes.
And Stephanie and Eleonora, do you vote to continue the Zoom recordings and posting?
I think we have to. Stephanie, can you hear us?
Stephanie, do you vote to approve the continued recording of the meeting and posting? And Eleonora?
I know what she said, but we still need her vote.
Yeah. Have a quorum present.
We approve if it's publicly posted.
Okay, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 yeses and 2 nays. So the vote carries.
Right, meetings will continue to be recorded. We'll have to, another discussion would be how does that work if we're doing only, if the hybrid model ends, and we're only here, how does that work? We do Zoom recordings, how does that work? So that's for another day, but just to throw it out there, that's kind of why it came up.
And I just was wondering, like, if someone did want to opt out of being recorded, is there any way that we can not mute what they say, but at least make them non-visible within the meeting itself.
That's.
We could work with communications who does our editing and we go through and edit
They could
out
do like
that
a blur
person.
on them.
Is that correct, Trent? I don't know.
So, I mean, technically you could edit a video. I think the question we need to ask is, if your purpose is to have a record of your meeting, do you really want to be in the habit of editing your videos? Because it calls into question the authenticity of your video sometimes. I think you're going to be hard pressed to find a way to ask somebody in an in-person setting. On Zoom, yeah, they can turn off their camera and whatever name they have will show. In person, especially in this room, because the camera setting is so wide, it would be hard to do.
But Trent, can't you put a blur on their face?
Possibly.
That's for another day. I think that's for, we can
Peter, do you want
figure that out.
to that? You should.
We can talk about that probably another time, but yeah, I mean, and then it just came into my head too, minors or juniors aren't 18 yet, maybe they don't, their parents might not want, I don't know, there's many reasons why possible, but that's for another day. We're gonna continue recording. Thank you very much, everybody. Future agenda items, anyone would like to contribute future agenda items? We have some, because we have the presentation tonight, the agenda that we had kind of shifted a little bit, right, Laura? And so we could definitely use some ideas for any prioritizing of future agenda items, something folks want to discuss. Now would be the time to bring those forward.
We have a calendar, current
So now
calendar.
We
Calendar for this year's meeting.
We have our meeting scheduled for September, and then once the board takes action, then we'll know what the future board meeting, Lcap PAC meetings will look like for the remainder of the year.
Because they may not take action in September, correct?
Correct. So regardless, we're going to meet in September. And then because the board meeting, I believe, will be after what would be our Lcap PAC meeting. So we're going to schedule a meeting in September prior to the board meeting, or immediately after the board meeting. I can't recall, Laura. And then because if they vote on it, we're going to want to get together and talk that out anyway. But then once we know what the board decides to do moving forward, then we'll have meetings scheduled for the remainder of the year.
Yeah, I think our September meeting is September 15th and the board is 14th, is that right? 13th? 13th.
Anytime you
September
want to take action on that 13th, if we move forward with that, we would meet in September. And then have that discussion to discuss what happened with the board, and then we will have our future meetings scheduled at that time.
So do we have a date for our next meeting?
Yes, we do.
Oh, what's that?
September, yeah.
September 15th.
September.
Yeah, I'm looking through it. Because we had, how many meetings did we have last year? 9 or something like
We had
that?
11.
11? So he's at 11, so
I know.
it's changing, so.
And I noticed that when they did the presentation, they had a lot of different LCAP PACs that had meetings 3 times, I guess, a year, up to 11. I was like, so we're on the higher.
Bring up the average.
So, yeah, just trying to cover all bases with all this stuff, so. If there are no future agenda items, we'll move to, and you can always email
I
me.
do have
Okay,
one.
good, Kim, go ahead.
The budget for LCAP PAC, is there a budget for LCAP PAC or not this year? Will there be a budget? And then also, what are some of the opportunities that LCAP PAC members might be able to participate in during the school year for learning opportunities? I can share one thing. I went to Camp Winters, which I did not know we owned. And we own that camp, which is amazing. And it was a great experience. And that's something that I would like for all of our LCAP PAC members to know about, and maybe even some to experience with, their families, with other families within our district and other community members.
Yeah, I can speak to that a bit. The FACE department had some openings to that camp, so they reached out to certain public facing committees and I know that they sent out an invitation to all of our PAC members.
But I know that it was late. And so I'm wondering if that's why like none of our PAC members were there. Cause I was like, I need to call Steve, I need to call, and I was like, oh, it's so late and it was so last minute. But what I found out was that what they did was that they extended the invitation to certain committees, and I guess they have in the past as well. But when the spaces were not filled, then they started reaching out to other committees. I'm just hoping that maybe they can extend it to us just because we work so hard.
If the group has an interest in seeing Camp Winters, we can figure out a time for you to go to camp.
I don't even know what it is.
Yeah, I don't know what it is, and I
I'd
don't
like to
think I
go.
received an invitation. I'm not familiar with this.
I'd like to see it, sure.
Camp Winters is our camp up I-80, about hour 20-ish minutes away. And it's right off of a lake that's owned by PG&E, but we have swimming rights and you can canoe and archery and traditional summer camp. Tents, mostly tents, some cabins. And we've owned it for pre-unification, so pre-1960. We bought it for $4,000.
Nice.
And how many acres is it?
It's like 80 or something like that. It's a good size of property.
Is it open year round or is it the summer
No,
only?
once the snow hits, it's done. So we run, traditionally, we have run summer camps, a week-long summer camp, so Monday through Friday, every summer. And we'll do like a session basically every week. There's a music camp that's always been really popular. There's a science camp, so they do different themes. What we did this year with FACE was we were doing family camps. So we took some of the weekend time that wasn't being used, and we took families, many of whom had never actually been camping, up to the camp, and they got to experience the camp firsthand.
What's the capacity of that place?
Couple hundred.
Serena, you had something to say.
I'm not quite sure if this would work for agendas, but I would love to do a presentation about the Ukrainian refugees, if there are any coming into the area and how our district is accommodating them.
I saw something on the news about some other districts. Good one.
What did you call that, Serena? Something refugees?
Ukrainian
Okay,
refugees,
perfect. Thank you.
new arrivals, English language learners. Okay, we're almost here, almost at the adjournment. Any other future agenda items?
So in the summer, it's a fee-based program in the summer for camp members.
No, I was talking about science camp.
Yeah,
I mean,
Lcap PAC barbecue.
in sixth grade, like everybody went to science camp.
Some schools do it still, some schools don't. And most of them use Slack Park.
All right, moving on to general visitor comments. If there's any visitor comments. Okay, it is 7:32. This meeting is adjourned.